Hi, my name is Dominic. I'm from the Netherlands. I am a student and a teacher of the Nunchaku system in the Netherlands. And I wanted to do a video response on Shadiversity. I watched both of his videos, and I think it's interesting that it's such a big point if the nunchaku is a usable weapon or not. So I wanted to make a video about regarding that. Since I've practiced with the nunchakus for 12, 13 years now, half my life actually, for 1, 2, 3 or even 4 times a week, I can say I am pretty good with the nunchaku, and I'm entitled to explain some things. Since some of the accusations he makes are right, well, most of them are right, I do think the nunchaku deserves some credit, and that's what I want to talk about in this video today. So the whole point of the nunchaku, if it's usable or not, one of the facts that is clear is that we know this weapon today. If it was complete garbage and never used and utterly bad or something, then yes, we wouldn't even have known it today. It's not like someone found a nunchaku somewhere and was like, hey, this is a cool weapon, I can do tricks with it and I can kill people with it. It was a weapon from Okinawa, part of Japan, let's say it like that, and where multiple weapons came from, like the tonfa, like the sai, like the bow stick, indeed because farmers wanted to defend themselves. This was indeed a farming tool with one shorter side and one longer side, and it was used to swing grains out of wheat, or I don't know how to say that in English, but it was a farming tool. So this tool developed itself into a weapon, so farmers were able to defend themselves. Of course, it went from a farming tool to a more suitable weapon. You even have a nunchaku with 3 sides. You can see that in Chinese martial arts, but they did develop into weapons. And nowadays, indeed, it is a very flashy weapon and more of a fun weapon to use instead of a real defending weapon. But I still want to make a few plus points to the nunchaku. Well, I agree, it is a flashy weapon. Sometimes it's a stupid weapon, but that is because how people use the weapon. Here in the Netherlands, they are completely forbidden. These are special safety nunchakus. These are bendable. These are made of foam with a plastic core. You can find them on the internet as well. Same ID, but the official nunchaku is forbidden since in the 1970s somewhere, people took their broomsticks, they broke them in half, cut the rope. This was a nice hidden weapon you can take in the bar, and if someone pulls a knife out of you, you could swing your nunchaku and have a very good day. Everybody did that in the 1970s here, at least in the Netherlands, and that's why they say, never again this weapon we want to see. Well, nowadays, I think if I take this outside and would go do it like this, no cop or whatsoever will attack me on it for like, hey, what's that weapon? This is forbidden or anything. They think it's kind of cool and everything. But still, in the Netherlands, this is a pretty heavy classified weapon. That's why we have these safety nunchakus, nunchucks internationally spoken. So the weapon, the nunchaku, in modern day, it's very flashy. And because of its flashiness, it looks very clunky. Like I was doing this, not paying attention, and I miss it. But you always want to catch the nunchaku. In that point, I totally agree. A stick is far more easy to use. After 12 years, I still miss some of my grips and everything. But the things we do is different. So we have a whole system here in the Netherlands and some other countries internationally. More positive notes on the nunchaku. It's a whole sport. The main core, it's making nunchaku techniques like these known techniques or lesser known techniques. But the idea is of making a point fighting system where we make overtakings, as they are called. And after that overtaking, you have to hit your opponent. It's a point fighting system, so if it's a good hit, the combat is stopped, and after 6 points there is a winner, or after 2.5 minutes. What are these overtakings? Overtakings are that you need to switch 1 and 2 times from hand to hand before you are allowed to make a strike. So 1, 2 and strike. If I miss, like 1, 2, I have to start over to make strikes again before I'm allowed to attack. That means these fights are very dynamic the whole time, because you keep spinning with the nunchaku. Would I ever do this in regular combat? No, of course not. Because indeed, if I hit, I miss, I might hit myself or anything. But I want control over my weapon. So that means if we are gonna fight with the nunchaku, I'm gonna hold it in front of me like this. So I can actually block certain motions with them. Is a stick better? Yeah, maybe. If people are not trained with a stick, then I don't think it's any better. If people are not trained with a nunchaku, I indeed think it's not that good indeed as well. But I'm gonna demonstrate a few techniques so you can judge if I have control over the nunchaku. So the first thing I want to demonstrate you is control with the nunchaku, like I said. So if you look nunchaku up on the internet, what people do is, as we call, hand rotations, swings indeed like this, grabbing it over like this, very short, very close to the rope, and then making strikes indeed very clunky out of it. That's what you see on the internet. You see a lot of freestyle, like tricks and stuff like that, but actually that's not something that you would ever use in a fight. Like I just said, you will hold the nunchaku like this, close to you. It is a ranged weapon, in my opinion. So that means we have 2 sections, a yellow section and a black section. Always hold it in a black section, so you have more reach with the nunchaku. If you hold it here, you only have a small extension to your hand, let's say. And if you hold it here, there's a larger extension of your hand. It's about getting the distance between you and your enemy. So one of the points was, when your enemy attacks you, he is getting closer to you, and because he's getting closer to you, it's more difficult to hit. But isn't that so with every weapon? That when my enemy gets close and I make a big swing out of it, I get a block here or something, or he grabs me, or when I have a sword like this, I want to make a cut with this part of the sword like this or like that. You want to cut with this part, but if my enemy gets too close, I can only use this part or something with the back of the sword or anything. But you have that with every weapon, so I don't think that's a fair point. Yes, you need to adapt to the distance maybe a little bit more with the nunchaku, but you don't have to stand still either. If you're getting attacked or something, what you can do is take it for a spin or something and move forward, backwards, because it's a confusing weapon. See, if you're spinning like this, you don't know when someone is gonna strike. And it's a fast weapon. Maybe a stick is even as fast, but a stick is less confusing than a nunchaku is. So that's some point I want to give some credit to the nunchaku. Yes, I'm using safety nunchaku, so they're a little bit lighter, so maybe even a little bit faster, but you have aluminium or steel nunchakus, then those are just as light as these. Wooden nunchakus, fairly heavy. Steel nunchakus, aluminium nunchakus can be fairly lightweight, like these are. So that's one of the first points I would like to make. Second of all, I'm going to continue with some more points and some more demonstrating of the nunchaku. So for the next point with the nunchaku, I don't have a martial arts bob or something, so I'll use my chair for this section. For the next point is the kickback of the strike. But all of the strikes demonstrated, well, most of the strikes demonstrated, are with thrown in body weight. And indeed, that's more striking force, but you're not gonna kill someone with one punch or something. You want multiple hits on them. Better to kill them with one shot, of course, and I do think that will hit and kill someone immediately if you hit them right on the head. Well, maybe not kill, but they surely will go down. And as you saw, I did have control over my weapon. The chair even moved with a lightweight nunchaku. I'm not talking about how strong the weapon is or anything, but it is an effective weapon. And I think in some situations maybe more effective than a stick, or equal maybe to a stick. Yes, everybody can handle a stick, let's say, but if you're unpracticed and you hit with a stick like this, you're just as open as you would do it with a nunchaku. Yes, you have more risk of hitting yourself, but let's say you're impractical with a sword, you can also hit your own leg. So yes, you do have a point, but also, if I have control over my weapon. Yes, maybe it's not 100% control since I hold it like this and I can do that. No, this will never bounce back or anything, but please just listen, you can have control over the nunchaku. So that has to do with reach, with your body of course, and your stance, and how you handle the nunchaku. Something very simple is what we say is don't strike through your opponent, since that's an uncontrolled strike. So if I'm going to strike through my opponent, you can see the nunchaku swung after it, below my hand and below my torso or anything. Something like this, yes, I will hit my hand because I overreach too much, but I want to stay at a safe distance just as with a sword. So I can start up high, but if I have the nunchaku, the one I'm holding, pointing down a little bit, it will swing lower because of gravity. So if I hit pointing it upwards, it will be a very different swing than when I'm hitting with the nunchaku pointing down. One of the other things you can see me doing is I stop on my target. I don't go through my target, because then you saw it was a very big swing after it. Now let's compare the strike with sounds. I don't have any measurement for strength or anything. So strike number 1 all the way through. And strike number 2 just right on target. I think the second one was louder because I controlled the nunchaku more, so I had a hit with the whole nunchaku. Well, on the body, that's fine. You only need a small part of it, either the tip or maybe on the black-yellow part. That will be good. This is an uncontrolled, not very well aimed strike. It is possible, still hit someone, etc., etc. But if I go through my opponent with my strikes, they will be uncontrolled. And yes, that's the moment you are gonna hit yourself with some of the strikes. So one of the other points was, yes, but this enemy is standing still and I'm standing still, so that's easy. Well, I don't see why you cannot be moving with your nunchaku. And I think the nunchaku is a more defending weapon. It's not a very offensive weapon. But one of the advantages with a nunchaku or something, as it is attached to a rope, so that means if people do get close and might block it, let's say they block it with their hand like this, and you're going to make a swing, you can hit around the block. So a stick would stop at the block, someone would indeed be really hurt, maybe have broken a bone here, but they would not be taken out. They have a block and a possibility to strike. They still have that with the nunchaku, but they're also getting a swing to the head, and a swing to the head is never good. So let's say people are blocking it, could still hit on the head in close combat. Also with control over the weapon, because if you, let's say someone is holding a stick in front of you here, you can swing it all the way around back into your own face. But that's why you need to use it as a range weapon and not as a close quarter weapon, holding it very slow and making techniques like that. That's just not thinking through the use of the weapon. The point I'm trying to make is use the right training for your nunchaku. That's with every weapon. A stick requires less training. A crossbow requires less training than a longbow. Longbow is way more effective, but a crossbow was so easy to learn that the longbowmen killed in a faster rate that they could be learned. So the crossbow took over at some point. Same with weapons. It took me 12 years to handle the nunchaku well enough for myself to make a video like this. That's a very long time. In 4 years you can be a taekwondo black belt and make very nice kicks and everything. So that's way faster. But with the right training, this can be a weapon which you can control. So like I said, we do these fighting things in where we move a lot during the fights. So that means we can keep the nunchaku continuously in motion, maybe misgrab, but then refocus again and keep on fighting. The other person is doing the exact same thing. So you're continuously in this cat and mice game, getting close, getting distance, getting close back, and then maybe for a counter or something. Someone strikes with the nunchaku, you make a block out of it and a strike. So you can move a lot with the nunchaku. You don't have to be standing still, both of you. Yes, indeed, if the opponent gets real close, you have to go back, but the same with a sword. If you're standing against each other with your sword like this and cutting with the part and making very, very small cuts or anything, or hitting each other with the back, yeah, of course, but that's also not the recommended stage of a fight. And fights do get into that position. Kali stick. Kali sticks are also a nice weapon. It is a stick, but over the Kali stick the nunchaku has a small range advantage. If I hold it here, that is. If I hold it close to the rope, that is the same. So with the distance using of the nunchaku, you have some few advantages as well. I'm not saying at all that this is a perfect weapon, but it does deserve some credit for a weapon. So that's one of the points I am trying to make, close to Shadiversity's other points for the weapon, because yes, they are flashy, and I will show you some flashy moves as well. So what I consider as flashy moves. Well, flashy moves are, in my opinion, these moves, because they don't add anything to the nunchaku. This is a very nice control point, maybe for some frontal attacks indeed, but this is also a very clunky point where I only have control over one part of the nunchaku. This way I have control over two parts of the nunchaku, so I'll always hold it open in front, because from this position I can strike just as fast as from this position. Maybe another nice position is here, because you can wind up for really nice big horizontal strikes, or even from downward strikes, starting high up, going down. But this is a weird position, in my opinion, for the nunchaku. We use it as a controlling exercise where we indeed can catch it under our arm, but in our combat system, when you're making overtakings, you can take a nice overtaking from here and then make a strike out of it. So it is a known strike, frontal strike number 3 or 4, frontal strike number 1, frontal strike number 4, number 3, number 4, I'm sorry. So it is a strike that we do use, but it's not used in combat very often. We do train with the nunchaku in self-defense, but in self-defense this comes to be a close combat maneuvering weapon, whereas people make strikes and you try to catch them with the rope of the nunchaku. Well, in this case you are really very close to someone. In the video most is talked about the long part and the hitting part of the nunchaku, so I'm not going there. But as a defensive weapon we learn a lot in the higher black belt degrees to catch body parts with the rope. So people come close to you, you make a nice block out of it, and after that a strike on the body, and then getting yourself out of range again. So someone strikes, you block it, you hit, then you get out of range and control over the weapon immediately. So not going with swings like this, no, we want it into hands. The first exercise we learn is this exercise. Fragment number 1, gripping. We learn ourselves to be blind on one leg, sitting down, all the way moving, to continue to be able to grab your own nunchaku, because this is when you have most control over the weapon. Never use it like this in an actual fight or something. You're only hitting yourself, and that's what you don't want. You want control over the fight. Enemy coming in, you step out, make a strike, and get control over the nunchaku again. No flashy freestyle motions or anything. That looks cool, and that's what the weapon is known for, but do give the weapon some credit for its ability of control and your ability of control. You want it in two hands. Same with these flashy strikes. We use them more for what we call freestyle. We make a whole event out of it with music coming up, big key-ups, battle cries, music on epic music, rotations, spin, multiple nunchakus and everything, and making all cool of these tricks to entertain people. That's what the weapon is known for, not for its defense or attacking capabilities in modern days. Today it's known for this. But a very small amount of people train with this weapon very seriously, and they do think it's a sport on its own, a martial art on its own. So I'm wrapping this video up since it's getting quite long now. My point is, yes, it is in modern days a flashy and a clunky weapon. Yes, there are better weapons, but you need training with the nunchaku. And the most training you see is people that don't use them full time. A pro kickboxer is kickboxing continuously and not doing karate and swords and nunchakus and kali sticks. It will make you a better martial artist, a more all-round martial artist. But if you're dedicated to the nunchaku, well, I'm also dedicated to swords and archery. But if most of your life you are dedicated to a certain weapon, you get way better at handling the nunchaku. And thus, yes, a master still might miss a grab or anything, but if you miss a sword strike or anything, you're just as open as with the nunchaku in one hand. At least you still have your weapon present, so you can fix it pretty soon with re-grabbing the nunchaku. Yes, modern days it is flashy, clunky, cool to look at, very entertaining to use, but do try some of the serious things that I just demonstrated you. You might appreciate the nunchaku a little bit more. Not to say that you or any other criticizer don't know anything about the nunchaku. I'm no expert as well. I just used this weapon for 12 years of my life and I'm pretty good at it. I teach it here in the Netherlands as well. I have my own school, so I do think I am entitled to some criticism on the video. But this is the point I'm trying to make. Do give the weapon some credit. Yes, clunky, flashy, but also yes, in some situations it can be a little bit more useful than in the almost 1 hour video of yours that it's portrayed. So thank you for at least giving the nunchaku some form of attention. Any attention is good attention. So with this video I try to get it more to the positive side and to the negative side. And I encourage people to try using the nunchaku, either it is freestyle, we're doing cool tricks, if it's just making nice long, not short, but long techniques, or just having fun with them and hitting yourself in the balls, as they are also known for. I will make a few videos after this with no talking, so you can see my skill with nunchaku if you still think that this is not a weapon I'm able to talk about, but just to show the things I can do with the nunchaku. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Post a comment if you don't agree with it. This is just my mindset. But thank you for watching anyways. Ah!